appreciate you taking the time. I know it took us a little bit of time to kind of reconnect and circle back, but I just wanted to, get your story, man, and put it out to, at least my social media, your social media, just to hear, because there's someone out there, in my belief, there's someone out there that may want to do what you did or something similar to it, man, or could just learn from your journey. So
Right.
I appreciate you taking this time. So my first question is like, where'd you go to school? What was your major? And like, what was your intended plan? Like, it's like, we go to college and we have these plans and all that stuff. So like, where did you go to school, and like, what were you thinking professionally?
Right. So, shoot, first off, thanks again for, speaking with me, wanting to hear the story out. I think it's super dope what you're doing, talking to different individuals to get different perspectives. But, I went to school down in Florida at FIU, down in Miami. I studied business. I double majored in marketing and real estate, while also being a student athlete. I walked onto the basketball team down there. So my plan, being from Jersey, was to always get my degree and then come back north and work in the city. Like I just wanted to be like a city boy, work in the city, live in the city, and just experience that city life. But what ended up happening when I went to graduate or about the time of graduation, so 08, 09, we ended up having like the financial downturn in the country. So what that did was, shoot, everybody was getting laid off. There was no real job opportunities available. Um, and even when I got my degree and I started to apply, like I wasn't getting any hits back, no hits back. And the hits that I was getting back, they were asking for experience. But what was happening, everybody was getting laid off that had the experience was taking these lower salary jobs just to feed their families, and then everybody else fresh out was kind of just almost stuck to a degree or trying different stuff. So I ended up doing like an internship for the NFL alumni. And then I went to, I worked at TGI Fridays as a host. And that was that's like, it was cool, but just having a degree and working at Fridays wasn't ideally the plan. And then from there, I ended up getting a job with the original Soup Man. And then I turned Soup Man into a food truck and turned that food truck into my own, my own brand. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like the short version of the story.
right. So wait, what was that? What was that? That first job like? What was that like? And before you kind of like did your own thing, what was that like? What was the name of the company you said? And then like, what was your experience like with that company?
So the job was, it was cool, man. It was called the original Soup Man. Um, and basically what they are is a soup company that partnered with the gourmet soup chef that had a location on 55th and 8th Street, New York City. He made really, really good soups, like hands down, best soups I've ever had, best soups a lot of people have had. And his thing was he had a walk up space, so he wanted his customers to like know what they wanted. Because if you don't know what you want, you come up and you at the menu and you going, what do I get? And asking these questions, you're kind of slowing his line down
Slowing
and
the
you're making other
production down.
customers wait. Right. So he was more so like he wants to keep the ball rolling. And he kind of gave his customers an attitude if they didn't have their stuff right. So the producers for Seinfeld actually went in the line. They kind of saw this and they came up with the whole like soup Nazi episode where you hear like the no soup for you. I'm not sure if you're
What?
familiar with that episode or not.
What?
Are you
Yeah,
familiar with that episode?
yeah.
Yeah. So that episode is based off of a real chef and a real person. He wasn't that he wasn't that, sporadic with like his customers and he didn't like being called the soup Nazi. Um, but that's where they got that from. And we, that's the company I was working for, and it was cool because it's my first job. They offered me shares in the company, so I'm like, okay, that's dope. Had a cool salary, I'm like that's cool, and I believed in it. I really believed in the product, so I felt like the shares are going to be of value. Long story short, those shares are worth absolutely nothing. So, when you start thinking about deals like that, like sometimes you got to think about it a little bit harder. Those shares are worth nothing now. But so I was bottom line. Like I was doing all the shipping, then I would go out and make like sales calls, and I would be like packing out shelves and run like Facebook and Twitter and trying to like get their social
Man,
media.
you had like a
Um,
diverse role.
yeah, bro. I mean, because it was a small company, so it was only it was two, three, probably like eight of us max in the office. Eight max in the office. So very small company. Everybody kind of did a little bit of everything. And because I was the young one in, it was kind of like I got to roll with everybody. If somebody had to go do the packing out and stuff, I wanted to kind of learn that. Somebody had to go make a sales call or couldn't make a sales call. I had to learn that, so I go do sales calls myself. They weren't really that hip to social media, so I was trying to like educate them on that. Um, just learn it top to bottom. And it was really cool because I got to sit in some really like big meetings with big companies. For example, Jersey Mike Subs. I sat in meetings with their ownership. Um, then there's Tim Gannon, who's the founder of Outback Steakhouse. Like I sat and had meetings with him and was having, dialogue back and forth with him all the time. So he's a good restaurant guy. Then there's a pizza place, can't think of the name, but they're in like all the airports and stuff. So, I'm getting to see all of these meetings and stuff, and I'm the youngest person in there. I'm the only black guy in there. So it's kind of like a different perspective to it. And long story short, I didn't really feel my value in that company as I started to like learn about it. Then I started feeling like, I could do more, I could contribute more, and they didn't really like hear my voice. So
Yeah, that
that
was
led
my
me to
next
saying
question.
like,
Is like, what was the transition? You know what I mean? Like, I know the end of the story, not the end of the story, but where you are now. So, like, what was the transition from, the company to like starting to kind of like have your own baby or your own child in terms of business? Like, yeah, what
right.
happened?
So I wanted to like again, I believed in their product, and I had shares in this company, so I want this company to win. And I noticed that Seinfeld episode, like that connection to the customer was lacking. So
Mm,
there's a generation that has seen it and understands it and gets it, and then there's a whole generation that has absolutely no idea, right? Because they were born after the episode. So I'm like, food trucks are hot. So why don't we take the soups, put on a food truck. We go to different events throughout the states, and we'll touch different markets. And when people try the soup, they're like, wow, like they're gonna say wow. I know they're gonna say wow. And once they say wow, and then they go into the supermarkets and see the soups on the grocery shelf, they're gonna be more inclined to buy it. So that was kind of like my pitch to them. And it took a while to get them to go for it, but once they said, okay, let's do it, I said, all right, not only do I want to do it, but I want to own it. I don't want to just work for you and run the business. Like I want to own it. So I'll invest into it. And they let me do that. So I ran that as a mobile franchisee for like 2 years. And then they started having some financial issues, which led to us making our pivot into burritos, which is like ours, 100% ours.
wow. Wow. Yeah, I remember the soup truck because I remember I don't think I was in at Rutgers. I think I was living in Highland Park and I came to the soup truck because he used to come bring it to Rutgers sometimes. Like or
Right,
he used to bring it
right.
to campus the soup and I remember I tried and it was pretty good. Wow. So when all right so the company goes down, and then like how is Bro Ritos born? Like what you know what I mean? Like how is that brand born? How is the like how I know you kind of saw the writing on the wall with the end of the company with the financial issues, but like what
Right.
happened after that to for the birth of Burritos?
Yeah, I mean, just being in the industry. So we're in the food truck industry for 2 years at this point, and we're like, we get it. We see the money on the table. Like, we get it. It makes sense. There are a lot of food truck owners that have families, and they're supporting their families. They're putting their kids through college. It's like, okay, this is a good market, and we're all 26, 27 at the time. So it's like, all right, the money's gonna be there. And then we looked at the market, and we saw that there's a lot of taco trucks, there's a lot of burger trucks, a lot of pizza trucks, a couple of Asian fusion trucks, but there was no burrito truck at all. So we're like, all right, either we're going to do chicken wings or we're going to do burritos. I didn't like what I saw with chicken wing trucks because they seem to come and go. I don't know why. Chicken wing market is like really good, but the trucks I didn't feel like they last. I felt like they didn't last. So I was like, let's do burritos because we can do burritos. We'll stay with burritos first, but we're still going to sell tacos. We're still going to sell quesadillas. We're going to be able to add nachos and like do really fun food with this as we grow. And then we're like, all right, we're going to be the Burrito Brothers or Brothers Burritos or Burrito Bros. Those are the names we're playing with. And I was talking to my guy Dan, who owns this place called Callahan's. They do like gourmet hot dogs and gourmet burgers and all this crazy food. It's like really good, man. They got thousands and thousands of followers. Had a little shop in Norwood, New Jersey, and now they're like expanding out. But anyhow, I'm talking to him, and he goes, why don't you mash the name? and put make bro Ritos, right? So I was like the light went off. The light went off. I was like, yo, like, yeah, I gotta take that one, bro. Like, I have to take that. So that's how we started the name, and we just put the menu together, just looking at what was out here and ran with it.
Are you still cool with the owner of Callahan's? Are you guys
Yeah,
still as so
no,
he's seen your
that's
growth.
yeah, that's my guy, man. Like that's my guy. It's crazy because we actually got into the food truck industry around the same time.
Mm.
His brand was prior established prior by his grandfather, but it's been a while,
Ah,
and basically he bought it back through a food truck.
oh,
He
that's
bought the business
cool.
back to through a food truck, but he did that at the same time we had soup. So he saw us grinding with soup. He saw us come up with the name. He saw us pivot and buy another truck, build it out. He's seen the entire thing. So like it's cool, man. And he's really great at like marketing and just thinking outside the box. So he's someone that should I call him anytime and I got like questions, man. Any questions, like he'll call me and ask me stuff. I call him and ask him stuff. And we've definitely been connected.
Wow. I just want to kind of pivot a little bit because there's something that sparked my interest, and like I said, I know it, but I kind of want to just pull it out of you a little bit. So you changed to Burritos. You had one truck operating for a while. You went through the experience of wrapping a truck, designing it, and doing all those things, and then you said you picked up another one. What was the experience like getting the second truck slash ripping it apart and building it? Like, are you handy? Like, you know what I mean? Did you have those skills? Did you
Yeah.
have to like go not old school, but did you have to like YouTube it? Like, what was that process like? Like, and also, was the first truck like done in the sense like when you purchased your first truck, did you have to like completely gut it and like paint it and do all of that stuff, or was it fairly
Yeah.
like up to speed mechanically and stuff?
So the first truck we found on Craigslist, I think I paid like 8 grand for it, and it was supposed to be like a food. It was a food truck because that's what they use it for. But they don't do like wraps and smoothies, right? They didn't have any real equipment, no real type of setup on the inside. So I bought it, and then immediately realized I had to like rip it all out. I had to get rid of everything that was in there, and then build it back up. So we got that truck, and then my uncle's a contractor. He owns Bryant Contracting. He does literally anything that needs to be done. He can do it. And basically, he was building his house in South Brunswick. Like he's building his house from the base, building all the way up. And we basically put the truck into the driveway, and he would come out to the truck and so look, you're building a kitchen, so this is what we're gonna do. He told us what to do. Me and my boy Johnny, some friends would pull up, Ty's pulled up, Tyrell is pulled up, Mike is pulled up, all guys that we know, they all came to like chip in and help me. Um, but as I'm building the truck, he's building his house. So anytime we had like a question, we just, hey, like, how do we do this? And not only that, he had a tool shed with literally every tool that we ever needed. So, the first truck we did that with our own hands, man. I didn't know how to do it. My uncle had the knowledge, and he kind of taught us. So now I have a little bit more knowledge. Moving forward to the second truck, I knew I wanted to buy a bare bones truck because I didn't want to have to rip anybody's other stuff out. I'd rather just rip the walls out. So we found a truck again on Craigslist. It was up in Clifton, New Jersey, and it was a refrigerator truck for like a dairy company. So I knew we had to rip the insulation out. I just didn't know how to do it, and basically talked to my uncle again. And he's like, "Yeah, you just have to start breaking it. And once you start breaking it, it peels off in like layers. So it's fun because you get to like do some demo and tear some stuff up.
Right, for sure.
But it's easy to break stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to break stuff. The second truck's build up would have been easier for me because I had the concept of it. But this time I didn't have the time for it because I also signed a lease for the store. So so
Oh.
I was being hands on in the store this time around and decided to outsource the work for the second truck to be built. We did the demo, but we let somebody else build it up. But in letting them build it up, we already know the cost for some of these parts and some of the things that have to be done. So, I basically just made them put me up price of the invoice with all the pricing of every part that they were going to do. And anything that I knew I could get cheaper, I basically just crossed it off. So I'm not paying you to do some stuff that I could do. You know what I mean? So just crossed it off.
That's so
So
smart, man. That's valuable
yeah,
information. Yeah.
yeah. So I just I went down the price list and like, yeah, put me up a itemized invoice. so I can see exactly what we're paying for. Um, because I know how to do half this work, and I'm not going to pay you double to do stuff that I have to do. So, for a prime example, like the generator that we have, I think they were trying to charge me like 7,500 for a generator. I got the generator for 3,200. I just had to take a trip to Long Island, but that's because I know where to go, right? You know, so I saved over 4 grand by just doing it on my own. The sink setup. I think they wanted a few $100s on a sink setup. I Google search online. I got a sink setup for like 150 bucks. Um, the steam table setup. They wanted a few $100s for a steam table setup. I went right back to the place that I bought my first one, which is in Belleville, a used restaurant equipment spot that redoes refurnishes that equipment. Bought the same exact steam table for like 300 bucks. Just picked it up, took it to the truck, and they just installed it, right? So I saved hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars by doing that. And just basically I was comfortable paying them to do the labor and the hands-on stuff because I just didn't have time to do it. So um in my serving window, I bought the serving window. I paid for 90% of the stuff I shipped to their shop and they just installed it.
Wow, man,
So,
that's so
so
cool, man. Like knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is also like, finances. You save so much money just because you had the experience of doing it once. That's
right,
wild,
right.
man. Did you ever face any mechanical issues like with the engine or like things like that? And if so, how did you address them?
Yeah, man. So back to the first truck, we after the first event we did, the first event we do is a good event. We go to turn the truck on, it won't come on. So it just won't come on. So it's making like noises, and I'm trying to, I was like ASC certified at one point, so I got a little bit of mechanical knowledge. But I'm tapping around stuff, tapping around, I get it to fire up. We're driving on the parkway, it cuts off, just starts rolling on the parkway. Kicks back on. Rolling down some more, cuts off, starts rolling again. So we get probably 5 minutes from my house, and it's just like, it's done. Like it just craps out. So I tow it to a garage. The guy checks it. He says there's nothing wrong with it. I pick it up. I drive it less than 5 minutes. The entire motor blows. I hear everything grinding up, cracking. Everything's just, I hear the entire thing just being destroyed. And this is literally after our first event.
Oh,
Um, so, so now I'm like super mad that I done took it to a mechanic thinking the mechanic would know what to do. I think he told me he thought it was a fuel pump or something. Clearly wasn't the fuel pump. I take it to another mechanic, and the second mechanic goes, "You probably just needed oil." He's like, "This truck, this truck will to tell you that it needs oil, it'll just like go off, it'll cut off." So the person that I took it to never even checked the oil. Oil is what, 60 bucks, bro? All I needed was some oil. 60 bucks, I would have saved like 3,400, $4,000 on labor for for engine and labor, right? So that was a lesson. We blew the motor on that truck. Then again, it's a used truck. It's old, so we kind of factored in there might be problems. And a few months later, I think we blew the transmission on that truck. But this time we're a little bit more prepared because we understood where to go, how long it was going to take to get done. The mechanic was really good, so it cost us a couple grand, but I think we were off the road for 3 4 days max. Right.
wow, that's
So
awesome that
that
you turned
yeah
it around that fast.
yeah that was the truck one. Truck two, we actually got that truck all built out, got it wrapped, drove it north. So we picked it up in Freehold, drove it north to Hackensack. When I got to Hackensack, I could smell like radiator fluid. I could smell it. Didn't know where it was coming from. I popped the hood. I don't see anything. So I drive some more. I start seeing a little bit of smoke. So I park it. Now I can see something's leaking. Anyhow, we end up cracking the radiator on that one, which cost us like um, almost 900 bucks to fix the radiator before we made $1 on that truck. We had to fix that. But it's like, long story. I mean, with a food truck, we have such low overhead, right?
That was gonna
So
be my
when
next
you got to come
question.
out of pocket, yeah, when you got to come out of pocket once in a while to fix the truck, it's still more cost effective than having like a brick and mortar, which you're stuck paying your overhead of rent, insurance, lights, gas, and whatever else, labor and all that stuff. If you got to pay 800 bucks every, you know, twice a year, even 2 grand twice a year to fix it, you're still ahead. So We it doesn't really matter. And we actually, I'm sorry, but we actually broke the we had to redo the whole front end on the first truck. We
Crashed
hit a
it?
pothole.
Oh,
Yeah, man. Hit a pothole in September sometime. Hit a pothole, and basically the whole control arm just broke, just snapped, and it sent the truck into like a slide. Thank God my cousin's good, like nothing happened, but it just sent the truck into a slide. Had to get that towed. They had to redo the whole front end on it. But again, like I just said, man, you got to pay a couple $1,000s,
yeah, it doesn't
couple times a
yeah.
year. Like it doesn't really hurt.
So with the trucks, what type of events? I know, we've had these conversations personally, but like what type of events do you kind of like scout out, or like what is the like I know events are different now because it's not with COVID, but like in the past, what type of events did you scout out to maximize profits? And then my second question is like, what does your week look like with the trucks, I guess before COVID and now? You know what I mean? Like I know you told me before like some events are profitable, some you try to stay
Right,
away from, but like what are like
right,
how do you, I mean, if you're willing to share, obviously, like what how do you
right,
kind of like dive through and say, oh, this is probably smart for us, or that's not really too smart in terms of
right.
making money?
So I mean, at this point, because I've been doing it long enough, I got a set of questions that I ask other promoters. If they answer any one of the few questions I asked incorrectly, I'm not going. Um, but when we started, food truck festivals were really hot, really, really like the way to go because we were still recovering from Hurricane Sandy. So the whole shore wasn't really it wasn't back yet. So everybody does food truck events every weekend, and thousands of people show up to these events every weekend. So we did heavy festivals, and they were successful for us. Without those festivals, we probably wouldn't be where we are. But the way I see festivals, hey, now they're just more risky than they are necessary. But then on the second side of that is they offer you marketing value when you do have thousands of people show up and they see your truck and they see you have a big line and they try your food, right? So there's the value in just being at the event and serving people. You're going to make some money, which is good. But then some of these people that you serve are going to call you back and say, hey, come to my job, or hey, I'm doing a graduation party or something like that. So these festivals actually turn into other revenues. Um, when we had just one truck, we had to be hypercritical on where we went and where we were going to be so we could make the best of our days. And I started noticing the festivals became more risky because promoters are telling you, hey, 5,000 people are coming, pay me $500. You're going to serve from 11 to 5 or 11 to 6. So that's your entire day. You got to pay for your health and you got to pay for fire permits, so it costs more than $500. And you go out there and 1,000 people show up, you do 750 in sales. Like you're, I can't even cover my permit fee, or I can't even cover the expense it costs to be here because it's an L. And when you do that enough, one, the team they're not having as much fun. So
Right,
like you want to
right.
make sure your staff is still engaged. And if they're just going around or just sitting at these events being bored, not doing nothing, then they're not as engaged. So we started seeing that people from our lunch business were reaching out for private catering and stuff on the weekends. And, a private catering is always going to be guaranteed, right? So we can establish a guarantee for private catering, or we can switch up on certain events in certain locations and tell them that they have to give us a minimum guarantee.
Mm,
So we're saying, hey, we'll come sell at your event, but you have to guarantee that we're going to do this number in sales. And if not, you have to pay the difference to secure our day. So now that's what it's become about, securing our day. We've had a lot of success with our catering. Our catering numbers have gone up, year after year, up until COVID. Even to the point we're doing six figures in private events alone. So that was a home run versus going to these events, going to these festivals,
I
and
know.
hoping that
Yeah.
you're just hoping, bro. Like at the end of the day, you really don't know what's gonna happen until you get there. So you pay for the event, you do all this paperwork, you're allocating time to the event, you're allocating labor to the event, you're paying for inventory, you're loaded up, and then you're hoping that it doesn't rain that day, or you're hoping that the amount of people that they want to show up actually show up. And that was just it's just annoying. Versus I can do two caterings in the same time as that one event
Wow.
and make double with less headache, less stress, less inventory. It's just much
It's
easier for us
certainty.
to
Yeah, it's
control.
certainty. Yeah.
Right.
My go ahead. Sorry.
Uh,
My next question is like what does Bro Ritos look like now? In terms
mm,
of, where you guys are with locations and things like that.
yeah,
And then, if you could say, let's say, I mean, 5, 10 years down the line, I don't know, if someone said you could have any dream that, you desire, like what would Burritos look like in the future? So like, what does it look like now, in terms of
mm,
locations and how things are set up and, what would it look like 5 years from now? And then also, are you open to franchising or, in the future at some point? So this is kind of like three or four
yeah,
questions back then stacked into one.
yeah. So what does it look like now? Right now, it is a super small business. We are two food trucks and one storefront in Hackensack. And we've completed our expansion at a weird time because we're all dealing with the pandemic. We're all facing COVID. So we're not able to get accurate track or accurate business or the business that we thought we were going to get due to the pandemic. Like we just, my numbers are going to be probably half or like three, probably like half of what we've done in the past. Um, just because of the pandemic, like we were shut down to a zero for a while. A lot of the locations that we went to were corporate offices. Everybody's working from home. We've had to do smaller parties, which means we had to reduce what we were charging. So because of that stuff, it's hard to get a number. But what we're looking at is one, I feel like we need to be in a bigger city. I've always wanted to expand to DC, Miami, and Atlanta, and I still have plans to do so. I feel like in Jersey, we may need to. Hackensack is cool. We're there a little early. Hackensack can be really booming within the next like 2 years. So I do want to put a store in Newark. Like my family's from Newark, so I've always wanted to put a location in Newark. And I feel like it's more central. You got a little bit more foot traffic. You're right next to the airport. You got the train. You got Penn Station, so people from New York can get over. Um, but within the next 5 years, we'll definitely have a location in two of the three spaces: Atlanta, Miami, DC, or all three. Uh, we are. I'm starting to become more open to franchising because franchising. What franchising does is it allows you to take in some money to get the ball really moving versus us slow rolling and hitting the pavement ourselves, which we've been doing. And we're doing it good enough, but now I want the business to accelerate a little bit. So I want to finally like finish reading our systems and our process. So we have like a booklet and we can say, hey, look, this booklet is the business and we can offer like this is your investment. You pay this much, this is what you get back, blah, 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 and just straight down the line. And we'll start probably taking on some investors. First, we'll deal with family and friends because that's always been the plan. And then from there, we'll extend outside that circle. But I would like for it to stay privately owned as long as possible. And then, hopefully we could turn into like a Chick-fil-A model of business or, a Shake Shack model of business where they had like a huge IPO. I really feel like we're going to shake some stuff up within like the next 6 months because we're starting to finalize our menu, which we've updated. And bro, when I say we're better than half of the like we're better than the majority of the restaurants that are out there already.
Wow.
Like just flavor profile. So so
Yeah.
when people come in and they taste like real flavor, it's food. And then we have the entertainment profile or the fun branding behind it. And you add trucks to it. So when we add stores, we're gonna have trucks as well. I think we're gonna go crazy. But part of us moving to these other cities is not just to have a store, but a store with like two trucks attached to it, so it could still go out and do the same, guaranteed private events like we do now. So I think that in the next 5 years, we'll be killing
Man, that's awesome. Honestly, like I feel blessed just to know you and to see the journey, man. It's just so like it's just so cool to say, this is my friend. I know someone who's like killing it, who's had ups and downs, but who's doing it. And it's kind of like, when if you ask the average person, even me, I'm guilty of it. Like I'm in education. I'm like, I'm going the short route, pension 30 years, but like there's a big piece of me that's like, man, what's possible if you open up a business? And then I know you. This one of the things we also talk about. You want to get to the point where your time is freed up. For me, like even as a teacher, we have summers off, but I still feel like my time is tied up. I feel like if I
Right,
if I want to go on a week long trip in September, I can't do that
right,
because that's
right,
when school starts. So like even though yeah, I could take a week, 2, 3 week trip in the summertime. I'm like, man, if I really deep down inside wanted to say I'm gonna go away for a week in September, I can't do that. And I feel like
right.
that's too much restriction, you know what I mean? So like I'm intrigued. I just say that to say like I'm intrigued by, people who stepped out and not done the ordinary where you like work for 20 or 30 years and you retire and like, oh, I'm gonna travel when I'm 60, like, you know.
Yeah.
Um
Nah, yeah. I mean, I'm always wanted to. Yeah, I've never wanted to like just do the safe route. I mean, I did that to my parents. They got up early mornings and worked really hard, travel, and just seeing that was like, yo, like I want to be able to change it so that the money's working for us as a family, moving forward versus us always working for the money. And it's probably going to be harder for me to do it, and it's going to take me longer to do it from the first. But that doesn't, hopefully that opens the door for whoever's, after us to not have to take so long and finding their success through business. Because at the end of the day, operating or owning a business, the returns that you get, the money you get, the financial freedom, time freedom that you get, it's unmatched. It's just a little bit of a grind to until you get it.
Man, that's awesome. So my last question is, um, what quality do you think you've possessed over the past few years with the company that kept you afloat? And really, what advice would you give if, let's say you were talking to Marcus or, someone else, that was starting at, ground zero or block one, what would you tell them to, in terms of like, what it takes to be successful or to have longevity or survive or like, what would you tell someone?
Right. I mean, one of the qualities like, I'm always looking forward, so I'm not like waiting for things to happen. I try to be as proactive as possible versus being reactive. This way, I've already seen it coming. When it happens, I'm not shocked. Like I knew, what I mean? So I knew it was coming because I'm already planned for it, and I've already mentally worked out how I'm going to get through it. COVID is probably the only thing that I had no idea was coming around, and we had to just, and we had to figure out. But I mean, it's more so just trying to stay ahead of the curve and really believing in the vision. Because just with myself, like I've had visions of other businesses that I've seen become successful, but when I had these visions, I just felt like I was too young to execute them. So somebody else came along and actually did them. But what that does is validate my mental and my thought. Like, hey, I was on the money with that, and I was on the money without. So I'm trying to transition into more of you know following what my intuition is telling me, following the creative that I do feel like I possess, and actually just putting things in process and start executing. So um, I don't only want to do food trucks and storefronts like that. There's a really a bigger version or a bigger vision for myself. So now it's like, how do I reinvest back into myself? How do I reinvest back into like other dreams that I had without pulling away energy and time from what's already working? And then, if I had to like talk back to myself when I was younger or first starting, I would just tell myself to do it sooner, versus waiting or versus trying to figure it out. Like just do it sooner. Because at the end of the day, everything that I learned mainly came from doing it. I learned a little bit from the research side. I learned a little bit from, overthinking,
Yeah.
but by actually doing it and going out there and hitting the speed bumps in the road, like I learned how to adjust and how to do things and how to manage, how to lead, how to now I'm hiring and building other people up. So it's always been a learning curve, but it's just a matter of like actually putting yourself in that position. Because realistically, when I look at it, a lot of people may say that they want to be owners, but then when it comes to actually doing it, they're like, deer in headlights. They're like super don't want to make the decisions. So just gotta like really lock in and be that decision maker, be that boss, as people say, like boss up. Like when people say boss up, like that, it's kind of real, bro. It's like a level. Like you could sit here and try to run a business and just be like, hey, yeah, I got a business, it's cool. But then when it comes time to like actually make decisions and actually have to pull people to the side and have conversations with them and actually have to like network and build and like really, wear that on your shirt every day, even when it's great and then even more so when it's bad, like that's when you're bossing up, not just living, hey, I'm good and I'm winning, because that's not real. But actually being able to say, hey, look, man, like, yeah, I kind of messed that up. Or yeah, I lost a few $1,000. Or shit, we're probably gonna have to let you go. Like those type of conversations, people don't want to have to do that, yeah. People don't want to have to do that, but you have to have a different mindset. Um, and yeah, so I would just tell myself, man, go do it sooner, and you know, do more specific training. So I've done a couple accelerator courses, which are like straight about business. So I would put myself in those situations more versus like Google searches.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know?
Dude, I admire you, man, and I just want to say before we end, like, I have three friends, and you're one of them, but my friend Marlon, who has a Chick-fil-A. I mean, I have a few friends who are in the business lane, but one specifically, my friend Miss Harris, she does the horse thing, and she's a lady who I've always rode horses with, and she has a pony riding business. So basically,
Mhm.
what she does on Saturdays and Sundays, is she sends trucks out, two trailers with horses. Like people will call up and say, "Hey, I want
Yeah,
3 ponies," and they'll come to the house and they'll like at a birthday party and they'll walk around and one common thing that I noticed between the three of you guys is just how like wide you guys think. I even think myself sometimes I'm like not closed minded, but like I'm not thinking of what's possible outside of the realm.
right.
Like right now, I'm in a space where I want to transition into, either being a college professor or being, administrator, like vice principal, principal, etc. And it's like when I talk to you three, like it's like you guys are always like, yeah, that's possible. And I'm like, somebody's like, what? How would you even think that? Like, that's just so cool to me. Like, when I talk to her, she's like, why can't you do that? And I'm like, wow, like I have like these almost like limiting beliefs. And yeah, when I talk to you guys, it's just like, yeah, no, I can do that. I mean, honestly, you just gave me a little bit of anxiety when we talked about having a conversation with someone about having to let them go. Like, that's
Yeah,
just crazy to me. Like, I can't even imagine being like, yeah, things not working out. Like,
right.
that's just cool, man. I have a lot of respect for what you guys do and the way you think. And I think definitely one day it might be something that I want to do because I'm not with this work 30 years and live my life when I'm 60 stuff. So that's cool,
Hey
man.
man, I already told you, bro. You got to start your travel and your blog. Just talk about what you do, bro. Because your passion, there's a lot of people that would tap into like your passion of like being outdoors and stuff like that. And then there's not a lot of us that actually do that. Like
Do that,
we
yeah.
go on Discovery or National Geographic or stuff. Like the hosts are always they're not us,
Right.
right? So there's a gap. There's a space for people that look like us that are very much interested in that. It's just a matter of like how do you tap into it? Is it doing private tours every weekend? Is it doing a trip every quarter or every month where you like call a bunch of people up, sign them up, you take care of all the paperwork and all of that stuff, and then you just show them around. I mean, I think there's a big space for it because I would do something like that.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I would like to travel personally. I would like to travel. I would like to be outdoors, but I don't know enough about it.
Right. It's crazy that you
Right.
say that,
So,
man. One of my friends from CrossFit, she said that. She moved actually to Seattle. And she was like,
mhm,
this is sometimes I'm so she was like, the people pay a lot of money. She's like, I would pay. She was like, I would pay a lot of money. She's like, if you set up everything and like I
right,
just have to pay and then show up and experience it. She's like,
right,
people pay for that, and yeah, like I just do all of these different cool things, and I think another part of my passion is the planning process. It's like to find the
Right,
location, to find the time, the price, or when is it a good time to go, and this, you know what I mean?
right.
So like, yeah, man, I don't know, maybe that'll be my my little baby, like how you got the burritos name. I appreciate you dropping that gem on
Okay.
me. Do you was
Yeah,
there anything
absolutely.
else that you wanted to include before we wrapped up?
No, no, I think we covered a bunch.
Yeah.
I think we covered a bunch. If anything, I don't know how people are, if they want to reach out to me, they could always email me, Marcus at amongstfleet.com, or on Instagram at BossmanMC, BAWSCMANMC. Just reach out to me if you got questions, stuff like that. And I'm an open book, man. I like talking to other people too, just so they don't have to go through what I went through.
Yeah. Dude, cool, man. All right. So yeah, so we'll wrap it up, bro. All right.
All right, man.